Hello, I'm Logan Phillips and welcome to my vlog, or as we like to call it, the VLOGAN. This is a vlog dedicated to people with special needs and those who love them. Today, I am lucky enough to have Kristen Henry, who is the Executive Director of APSI. She has been kind enough to come and talk with us a little bit and tell us about what APSI is and what APSI can do for people in the disability community. So welcome, Kristen.
Good morning. Thanks, Logan. I'm so excited to be here and to talk to your viewers about what we do.
Great. So let's just start right off. Tell people about what APSI is and what your role at APSI is.
Great. So APSI stands for Advocacy and Protective Services, Inc. And sometimes we say we're APSI with an I because there are other organizations with similar acronyms that do other things. So APSI was created to serve as guardians for adults with developmental disabilities who don't have a family member or another person in their life who can fill that role for them. So we've been around for about 40 years providing that service across the state. And right now we are serving as guardian for about 3,200 adults across the state of Ohio. So we serve people in just about every single county across the state.
Wow. And so why is it an Inc?
So it's really important, I think, to notice that Ohio has a different model than other states. Some states have maybe like a public guardianship program, but in Ohio, we don't. And so there are nonprofit organizations like APSI that can serve in that guardianship role. And so, sometimes people might have heard the term like ward of the state. And Ohio doesn't really have that. What we have is a bunch of great guardianship programs, and APSI is unique in that we serve just people with developmental disabilities, and we serve people throughout the state of Ohio.
Got it. And what's your role there?
I'm the executive director at APSI. I've been here for about 4 years. I'm an attorney by background, and so I get to take some of that legal background and apply it to all of the work that we do with Ohio's probate courts to be appointed as guardian and to maintain our guardianships.
Great. So what's it look like kind of boots on the ground for a person who has APSI as their guardian? If there is a typical client, what's that look like for them? How's their life look?
So our role for our clients is to provide consent for the things that they need to do in their lives. And so in order to have a guardian, that requires a legal determination that the person can't give that informed consent for things like medical care or medications or where they're going to live, who's going to provide services for them. So our staff at APSI are connected with these clients who we've been appointed as guardian for. And so we will go to their team meetings, we will visit with them where they live and where they spend their days. If they have a job or are in a day program, we go there, we see what the conditions are like, how they're doing, what they want to be happening in their lives. And then it's our responsibility to make decisions that are in their best interest. So we need to make sure that they have a place to live, that they have service providers who are able to meet their needs, that there's a service plan with approved services and funding for those services. If they need to go to the hospital or to the doctor, we give consent for that care. If there's a medication change, we give consent for that. So one thing that APSI does not do is we do not handle the money or property of our clients. So in Ohio, we have separate guardian of the person and guardian of the estate. Guardian of the person is those daily kind of living decisions I was just talking about. Guardian of the estate is that financial side of things. We do not handle our clients' finances. And so if they, for example, many of our clients are recipients of Social Security or SSI, and so they might have a payee that can help them manage those funds. Or if they do have a large amount of funds or property, a separate guardian of the estate can be appointed to manage those matters for them.
Does APSI help a person get that other guardian of the estate or the rep payee?
Absolutely. So if we have a client who maybe gets an inheritance, for example, and so they've got more money than they had before and they need someone to help them manage that, we will help apply to the probate court to have someone appointed as that guardian of the estate. And for payees, usually we'll work with the person's team, their SSA, their providers, to identify a good payee in their community who can help manage their funds.
Okay. So you mentioned that you have employees who serve some of your clients. Explain how that works. Where do you get these employees and how are they trained? And then what do they do?
Our staff who provide kind of our core guardianship service are what we call protective service representatives. And so each of them have a designated group of individuals that they are kind of that primary contact for. So APSI, again, is a little unique, although Ohio law is changing to allow other guardianship programs to operate like us. So APSI, as the organization, is appointed as our client's guardian, but then we designate individual staff members to be that primary point of contact, to be the person who goes to those team meetings, who signs off on those consents. But then in a pinch, if someone isn't available, any of our staff members can provide that support. And so those protective service representatives have at least 40 hours of training that they go through at APSI, including the required 6-hour training that Rule 66 of the Ohio Supreme Court requires for guardians. So in addition to those 6 hours, we train our staff on our policies and procedures. We have training related to the DD system about major unusual incident reporting and protecting our individuals from abuse and neglect. We have a really wide array of training to ensure that our staff are equipped to operate under APSI's policies, under the DD system rules and regulations, and just to be good staff members and supporters for our clients. So we also train our staff on things like maximizing our clients' ability to participate in the decisions that we make for them, and also our responsibility to identify clients who maybe don't need a guardian anymore.
Wow. And so just kind of give maybe some viewers a picture if they've never experienced guardianship before. If a person that was an APSI client needed to have their wisdom teeth pulled, one of your representative, that person's guardian through APSI would consent to that, go to the doctor appointment and say, yes, this is what should happen.
So absolutely, that is our role, is to provide that consent. So if you think of any time that you go to the dentist or the doctor or have surgery, something like that, and you have to sign those consent forms, that's what APSI does for our clients. And so we have some medical specialists who can help us review medical situations that are maybe a little unusual to make sure that we're consenting to the right thing. And then our staff may not go to the actual appointment, because in the DD system, we do have that great network of supports through waivers and other residential services. So we ensure that our client has someone to help them get there, that the staff member is ready to be there with them, but we can contact the doctor's office in advance and sign those consents or give verbal consent if that's permitted. But yes, so anytime someone is going to that dentist or going to the hospital, those are the times that we would provide consent.
Got it. So for many of my clients, their picture of guardianship is to have a sibling serve as guardian for their child with a disability. And I think they picture that brother or sister going to ISP meetings, going to IEP meetings, going to the dentist. And so really APSI is just take out brother or sister and put in APSI, and you have what APSI does as guardian.
Absolutely. So we're kind of that guardianship safety net for the state, because some people unfortunately don't have that family member, that sibling or cousin or someone else who can step into that role. And so, the state of Ohio wants to make sure that nobody is left without that support. And so that's why APSI is here, in order to provide that guardianship service and support for people who don't have a family member or other person who can do that for them.
Great. So my clients also are always very interested when we start talking about guardianship. We start really thinking about the future and living arrangements. So can you talk about the different living arrangements that APSI clients are living in right now?
Yeah, so because we serve over 3,200 people with a very wide variety of needs, we have people who live in every type of living situation that's available in the state of Ohio. So we have a lot of our clients, the majority of our clients, use Medicaid waiver services and live in the community. They might be living by themselves, they might have a roommate, they might have 2 or 3 roommates, and that could be in an apartment, in a house, wherever that housing is available that is affordable and appropriate for their needs. We also have clients who live in intermediate care facilities, and those again can range from small facilities, maybe 6 or 8 beds, up to very large facilities for people with more complex needs. We also have people who live in state-run developmental centers, which are also intermediate care facilities, but they're run by the state. And then we have some individuals who, because of maybe rehabilitation needs or other medical needs, are living in a nursing home. So really, if there's a type of living setting that can provide services for people with disabilities, we've got clients living in there. And so that's why we actually try to provide a lot of advocacy and even technical assistance for families who may not know as much about all of the different options in the system, because we have experience dealing with all of those different settings across the state.
Great. And so let's suppose that there is a sibling who can't serve but wants to be involved in their sibling's life. Does APSI welcome that input and that help and assistance?
Absolutely. We see that a lot with siblings who live in Ohio, but also with siblings who live out of the state and so maybe aren't available to serve as guardian as readily. And so we have kind of family contact plans. So we're very open to, if a family member says, I'd like to talk to you every couple of months and just give me a general update. We have family members who attend all of the team meetings, and we really value their input and want to make sure that their perspective is included as we're making decisions for their family member. So we stay in contact, and especially when there are very serious medical situations, if someone is approaching end of life care or something like that, we want that family to be very involved. And so another thing that we do is, maybe there's a hospital that's providing care, and there's very strict HIPAA requirements about who doctors and hospitals can share information with. And so we'll give that hospital permission to share information about the person's health with a list of family members, or we'll designate a kind of a primary contact and then make sure that the family is getting all of that information. But yes, we really encourage family members to be involved, even if they can't serve as guardian. And then sometimes after a family member has been involved for a while, they feel like they are ready to become guardian. And so we really support family members or other natural supports in the person's life becoming a successor guardian. So kind of taking over for APSI in that guardianship role.
Oh, great. And so APSI, and this was new to me in the last year or so. I learned that APSI does more than serve as guardians. Can you talk about the other services that maybe alternatives to guardians that APSI can help people with?
Yes, so we've been doing this for a while, but we've had a particular emphasis on it over the last few years. So it's our perspective that there are people in Ohio who need some support with making decisions, but maybe don't need a full guardian. And that can include people who we're currently serving as guardian. We like to say that decision making is a skill, and you can get better at making decisions. And so maybe you needed a guardian when you were 18 or 25 or 30, but now you've had time to develop those decision-making skills and you're ready to not have a guardian. So we do this in two main ways. For people who we are not currently serving as guardian, we have a service that we call targeted decision making. And it's something we've started more recently. And basically, if maybe a county board of developmental disabilities or a family member identifies that this person needs help making kind of one important decision in their life. Maybe they're making a choice about where they're going to live, or whether they can have a roommate or a job opportunity. And maybe they don't have those natural supports. All of us make decisions and we go to our family members and we go to our friends and our coworkers. And unfortunately, some people don't have that kind of circle of support. And so sometimes it's appropriate for APSI to step in and just kind of be that person alongside them that helps them understand and weigh their options so that they can come to a decision. And so some examples of when we've done that: residential options, someone who had a change in roommate and was trying to decide kind of what was the next right step for him. We helped him weigh those options, and he decided to stay in his home and identified what it was that he wanted in a roommate. And he was able to work with his team to find a new roommate that was a good fit for him. We've also helped individuals who were trying to decide whether to accept an exit waiver from an intermediate care facility to move into the community. And some of those individuals chose to stay in the facility they were living in, and some chose to accept the waiver and try out community-based services. So it's just a really helpful support for people who don't have those friends and family connections that can help them through those decisions. And then
I love that you, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I love that you brought that up. I mean, how many times do I during the day ask someone's opinion about something? Usually it's my wife, what do you think about this? Let me run this by you. But I do that all day, every day. And, for APSI to be there to provide that for people who don't have that support of people that they can trust, or that maybe have, a broader knowledge base than they do. Just, that's really great. I love that.
Yeah, I think it's so important because absolutely. And that's really, again, one of the principles of supported decision making is sometimes when people who have disabilities struggle to make decisions, we think, oh, we have to get you a guardian. But none of us make decisions completely independently. None of us make decisions totally on our own. And so having alternative ways of supporting people is really important. And so going back to that idea that decision making is a skill that can be developed, we have also what we call guardianship to restoration transition. And so that's for the people that we're currently serving as guardian, who we think are ready to start working towards what we call restoration. So having their guardianship terminated. And so we work with their teams to identify kind of what are the areas that they maybe will need some ongoing support, who will be able to support them in those ways. Are there classes or peer groups that we can get them involved in to get them ready for more of that independence? And then the final step is going to the court and presenting the case that the guardianship can be terminated. And that's always an exciting day.
That's awesome. And just so listeners and viewers are clear, I want to make sure that I heard that right. Just because guardianship is terminated, APSI's support of that individual does not end.
Absolutely.
It's just a transition to a different type of support where that individual has more say, I guess, and say so in the decisions that impact their lives.
Yeah, we're really open to whatever arrangement is right for the client. So some of the individuals we serve have been able to develop more of those natural supports in the community. And so they maybe don't need APSI, they just need us to check in periodically and see how they're doing. Others have chosen to stay in more of like a voluntary relationship with us, where we're there. We could even go to a team meeting with them as they're trying to make a decision. They can call our protective service representative that they've worked with so long and work through that decision. But in the end, it's their decision to make. They're the one who signs that consent form or that service plan. And it's in the end their legal right to make that decision.
Wow, that's powerful. I mean, what a juxtaposition of when we hear the words ward of the state as opposed to, a person working with APSI and an APSI client. That's tremendous. So
thank you. Yes, we're really excited about that work because we think, there's unfortunately, even though we serve over 3,000 people, there are so many more people who need APSI services. And so we think if we can help some people become more independent, that also will help us serve some of those people who are out there who maybe aren't able to get our services yet.
So can you talk a little bit about the structure of APSI? If a person says, hey, I would like APSI maybe to serve as the guardian for my adult child, I'm getting older, and I need somebody to step in. My other children live in a different state. What's the oversight of a person who is kind of the boots on the ground person? How does that work? Are there teams then that meet and talk? And how do we know that a person's doing a good job for their client?
Yeah, so we have staff across the state. I feel like that's one of my themes here today is we're across the state. So we have 9 offices scattered throughout Ohio, and each of those offices is part of one of our regions. And so we have 5 regions, each of which has a regional program director. Some of them have 2 regional program directors, and they are like the managers for that office. They're meeting with their staff regularly. They're discussing those client situations. They're reviewing the notes that people put in, because of course we're keeping notes about the work that we're doing. And so there's also supervisors, and then we have office administrators who help us with all of our court stuff, because guardianship is a creature of the probate court. And so we're filing reports with the court, we're filing annual plans as far as what our goals for the individual are. And so our regional program directors are meeting regularly with their staff. They're available all the time. If there's a conflict complex situation that's coming up, they'll go to that team meeting with the person or step in and help with some of those conversations. They've got all kinds of training that we provide on an annual basis. So I mentioned before about some of our orientation training, but we also have lots of training that happens during the year. So we're required by Ohio Supreme Court Rule 66 to have at least 3 hours of training. Our staff gets lots more than that. We've actually started offering what we call APSI Institutes twice a year, where our staff, other professionals in the DD system, families, self-advocates can kind of come together to be trained on and discuss how we implement different topics like supported decision-making and guardianship in complex cases and medical decision-making. So we try to equip our staff with as many resources as we possibly can to do their jobs, because we tend to be serving pretty complex individuals, people who have very serious medical needs, or many of our clients have a co-occurring mental health diagnosis and are getting services from multiple systems.
Oh, wow. That's just really, really great information. And what APSI does is just so important. I probably need to let the viewers know that the Graham in Reshrut, Phillips and Graham is actually the attorney for APSI. And so when it's necessary to go to court to seek that termination of guardianship, or if there's an issue that the court needs to know about, it's Derek who does that. And just so you know, I don't know whether Derek's told you this, one of the biggest compliments I think he gave the APSI staff was, we're always trying to teach people about the benefits that are out there for their adult children. That's usually who we see as parents and grandparents. And he said, well, we need to talk to our APSI folks because they are experts at knowing how to get the maximum out of these benefits for their clients. And I thought that was a real testament to the work that they do. And of course, then the work that you do, because, it all comes from the top.
Thank you so much. Yes, we love Derek. He is really what makes things work at APSI. He spends a lot of time in many of the probate courts in the state, getting us connected with clients, helping us follow up on issues that they're facing. And I really appreciate that compliment, because I think it's so true. I think one thing that's so difficult for families is they're typically working with one or two people in their lives and trying to navigate a system they may not have grown up doing. And our staff, that's their full-time job, is to be exploring those waiver services and those residential options and what's the right medical care. And they can take that expertise from, this client they worked with 2 years ago and what they learned there and apply it to the clients that they're working with now. So I hope that we are developing that kind of expertise and then sharing it out in the community.
That's awesome. Kristen, thank you so much for joining me today. What a lot of information, great information for people to know. And I think really tell people about what APSI is and how it can help all individuals in Ohio and really is that safety net. And, sometimes we think of a safety net as not necessarily the best thing, but boy, does it sound like APSI really is, the advocacy part of it, and, that really step in to help those people who need a voice in this community. And it's just wonderful that you're leading it. So thank you for being here and thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Logan. I'm so thrilled to have had this opportunity and appreciate the time to chat with you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of VLOGAN. Please like, share, and subscribe to the RRPG channel so you can stay up to date with some of the latest news in the disability community.